we often get comments about how everything feels so segmented. We're working on vocabulary, we have to think about student behavior, we have to think about lesson objectives and standards, and really I think that the process does help to kind of put everything together in a very succinct way so that you're thinking about everything that you need to be thinking about. So we just kind of commented on how pleased we were that was happening.
My aha moment was when it was, let's look at the standard and see what great lesson we can bring from the standard, instead of looking at, here's my resources, what can I match to a standard. I am making a lesson by looking at the standard first. It's doable and it makes sense.
I had an aha moment when we were circling and underlining the words. I just thought that was a really neat way to just go about looking at the standard, because sometimes you read the standards like, oh yeah, I know what that means. But when you really dig into it, it's like, oh, then you get the, oh, that's what that means.
Was when we went through the words, either domain specific, just general or conversational. Looking at some of those words, like we talked about root, that it could be a tree root or the root of an equation or square root. And so even within the domain, there's different ways that we use those words and how that could and is confusing for students.
My major focus was just looking at the standards in-depthly, how cognitively the demands that it's placing on students. So as I talk about it with teachers, we look at the shifts, we look at what teachers need to do with the standards themselves. My aha moment came yesterday when I realized that I never did address the behavioral domains. Teachers now need to teach students how they need to behave in order to be successful as they maneuver the standards.
I think it makes sense to make sure that those interpersonal and intrapersonal tendencies and behaviors are explicitly taught before the lesson.
So I think those mathematical practices, that idea of them being those habits of mind, the idea that that is what's important going out, college and career readiness, no matter what you're going to do. It's hard to express rational exponents as something that's critical for all people, but the idea of looking for structure and of considering what models represent different things and finding those connections amongst them, that's what's really important.
I think the UDL is so compatible with how we're thinking in terms of RTI, where we're not differentiating at the end of the lesson, we're differentiating at the front. So it's giving you really the structure to do what good teaching's been doing all along, but it's naming it and it's providing that format for it to ensure that it happens.
And student engagement always has to be central to everything we do, because if the dendrites aren't connecting, if it's not relevant to them, if it's not being connected to something they know, if they're not excited about it, we know learning happens when students are excited and interested and engaged. So it's the very foundation, it better be, of everything we do.